Every once in a while, I see people arguing whether or not the Porsche Macan is a sports car or not. And every time I hear the arguments being thrown from one side to another, I go, you're both wrong. This is not a sports car. It's nothing like the 718 Cayman to drive. Its center of gravity is too high, it's much too heavy, and well, when's the last time you saw a sports car that has 4 doors? So no, I don't think the Macan is a sports car, but I do think this is the best hot hatchback I've ever driven. And I do mean that this car feels more like a hot hatch when you're driving it rather than a crossover slash SUV thingy. Every time you start up the car and you put it in sport mode, the suspension automatically goes to its lowest settings, and after 5 minutes or so of driving, you almost forget that you're riding in a tall-ish vehicle. Because from behind the steering wheel, it doesn't feel like you're riding so high. And speaking of that, have a look at the stance of this car. From whatever angle you glance at it, it just doesn't look like a crossover SUV thingy. Then there's the way this car handles. It's flat through the bends, there's hardly any understeer, and then the power kicks in. It's hyper hatch fast. Now have a look at this. I'm gonna attempt a launch control and I'm gonna time it with a shitty phone app, but don't tell anyone. Yep. Let's do it. Sport plus. Traction control off. Left foot hard on the brake, floor the throttle. Let go of the brake. 4.8 seconds north to 100 kilometers per hour. That's about half a second off than the official time, but you have to take into account that it's -9 degrees outside and we are running winter tires. And considering everything I just told you, to me it feels pretty impressive. This car that you see here is the facelift of the facelifted Macan GTS. I know, right? Basically, Porsche is not really done with the next generation Macan, and in the meantime, they figured they should give this car its last facelift. And well, let's face it, the Macan hasn't changed very much since the first generation, and this update, it's quite a good one, especially under the bonnet and on the inside. And despite the fact that the profile is basically identical except for the new 21-inch alloys that come with the Macan GTS, the front and the back of the car has received minor updates. The 2022 Macan GTS has a big grin on its face right now. It has a new front bumper, and in the back it has a new diffuser which is a bit bigger than the old one, and it incorporates the same quad tailpipe exhaust as on the old car. But apart from those two small elements, this is it for the exterior of the car. But before we move on to the interior, let me show you the biggest upgrade this car has received, at least in my opinion. Now, if you follow Porsche and my channel for that matter, you know that the last facelift of the Macan GTS already had the engine from the turbo. This 22 version, the facelifted facelift, completely replaces the turbo in the lineup. And in the process, it also gets all of its power. So, the 2022 Macan GTS features the same 2.9 liter V6 engine under the bonnet, but now it has 440 horsepower. That's 60 more than the old car.
The interior is mostly similar to the previous one. Great materials all around, superb and very comfortable 18-way adjustable seats in this GTS, and a very good driving position. But the biggest change comes from the center console. Porsche removed the entire huge stack of physical buttons from the old car and replaced it with this touch-sensitive slab of gloss black, coming straight from its bigger brother, the Cayenne. And this cleans up the interior quite a lot, and it brings it up to par with the other cars in Porsche's lineup. Space in the back is, like I've said, a bit limited. 4 adults will struggle back there, but the boot space is decent for such a crossover.
Now, why is this car a send-off to the Macan? Why is this the last proper generation? Well, if you don't know by now, Porsche officially announced that the next Macan generation is going to be fully electric. And it doesn't really matter what you or I think about electric cars, this next Macan is not going to feel anything like the car I'm driving right now. But why does it matter that much how a crossover SUV drives? Well, when an SUV/crossover gets this badge, it matters quite a lot. So without further ado, let's give this car a proper send-off. This Macan is absolutely ridiculous, and to think that this is based on a Q5 makes it even more impressive. Take the Porsche badges off, cover up the interior, let me drive this car, and in 50 meters I'll definitely confirm that I'm driving a Porsche. It's unreal how this car feels when you're on it. Every time I go on the configurator and try to spec one of these cars, it gets quite hard to justify the price. But whenever I get behind the wheel of a Macan, I totally get why these cars cost so much. This is not just a rebadge job, this is a properly engineered Porsche. God, I love this car. So agile, so responsive, and so damn fast. And that gearbox, don't even get me started on that one. It's like it reads your mind. The slightest touch of a paddle gives you an instant downshift or upshift. It's so impressive. The amount of fun I have every time I drive a Macan is absolutely ridiculous considering what this car is. And it's not just about the engine and how fast the car is. I even enjoyed the 2-liter engine car, the one that has the Golf GTI engine fitted to it. Downsides? Well, there's a couple, I guess. And first off is, like I mentioned before, is the pricing. Yeah, it is a bit on the expensive side, especially when you compare it to its rivals. And then when you start speccing the car, the options are so expensive that you can easily go to ridiculous numbers. For example, this Macan GTS's base price in Sweden is around 86,000 euros. And you just add 3, 4, 5 options and you're already above 100k. And then there's the space issue. This car is not exactly massive. There's not a lot of legroom in the back, if I'm totally honest, and the boot is decent, I guess, for a car like this. But overall, what a car this is. Properly fun to drive, incredibly fast, but on the flip side, because it has the air suspension, it's very comfortable and it's decently practical for a crossover. But that's been it for today's video, my friends. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Please give this video a thumbs up to please Susan and the gang, and I'll see you again very soon.